You were lied to, not by a single person, not by one bad decision, by a story. The story goes like this. Work hard, show up, stay loyal, and eventually, life opens up. Millions of people believed it. Their parents believed it. Their grandparents built entire identities around it. And here is the uncomfortable truth. It worked. For a specific window of time, in a specific economic era. Then the rules changed. Nobody sent a memo. You are still working by a playbook that was retired decades ago, and the people who profited from writing it have no reason to tell you. This is not a motivation problem. This is a system problem. Let's start with where the story came from. Post-World War II. America produced the most extraordinary economic expansion in recorded history. Between 1945 and 1973, real wages in the United States grew by approximately 3% per year, every year, for nearly 3 decades. Workers who were loyal were rewarded. A person who showed up, worked hard, stayed with one company, and retired after 30 years could realistically own a home, raise a family, and leave something behind. This was not mythology. This was real. The work hard, get ahead framework had actual structural support. The economy was growing, unions were strong, wages were rising, productivity gains were shared. Here is the critical word, shared. But sometime around 1971, and this is where the story quietly fractures, the relationship between what workers produced and what workers were paid began to separate. Economists call this the productivity wage decoupling. From 1948 to 1979, productivity in the United States grew by 108%. Hourly worker compensation grew by 93%, nearly in lockstep. Then something shifted. From 1979 to 2022, productivity grew another 64%. Worker compensation, 17.3%, 64 versus 17. The same effort, the same hours, the same loyalty. But the output, the wealth produced, stopped going to the workers who produced it. So where did it go? The year was 1971. That August, President Nixon suspended the convertibility of the US dollar to gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods International Monetary System, the framework that had governed global economic stability since 1944. What does a currency policy have to do with your paycheck? Everything. The stability of the post-war era was not an accident. It was structural, built on specific international agreements and economic conditions that no longer exist. When those structures change, corporate strategy changed with them. In 1970, economist Milton Friedman published an essay in the New York Times Magazine with a premise that sounds almost simple. The only social responsibility of a business is to increase its profits. It became one of the most influential pieces of economic writing of the 20th century. By the 1980s, shareholder primacy, the idea that a company exists solely to maximize returns for investors, had moved from academic theory to corporate doctrine. Labor became a cost to be minimized. Loyalty became a liability. Long-term employment became inefficiency. And here is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. You were told to respond to these changes by working harder. When real wages stagnated, work harder. When pensions disappeared, work harder and save more. When health insurance became a cost you had to carry, work harder to cover it. When the cost of housing doubled relative to income, work 2 jobs. The self-improvement industry was not born in a vacuum. It was born in this moment. The language of hustle culture, personal productivity, motivational content. It emerged precisely when the structural supports that once made hard work reliable were being quietly removed. This is not conspiracy. The data is public. The timeline is documented. But the framing, the idea that your effort alone determines your outcome, remained culturally dominant because it was profitable to keep it that way. For corporations, a workforce that blames itself for systemic failures is a workforce that doesn't organize, doesn't demand change, and works harder for the same pay. Think about that. Here is something they never put in the productivity conversation. The 40-hour work week was designed in 1926. Henry Ford shortened factory shifts not because he was generous, but because he discovered that rested workers were more productive. It was an industrial optimization decision. That same model, 40 hours, 5 days, 8 hours a day, is still the standard framework for knowledge workers in 2026. The problem? Knowledge work is not factory work. In a factory, the input is physical labor. You can track it. You can measure it. 8 hours in is 8 hours out. In knowledge work, writing, designing, analyzing, coding, managing, the input is attention, and attention is a finite, depletable resource. Microsoft's 2022 Work Trend Index found that 68% of workers said they lacked sufficient focus time during their workday. But here is the layer beneath the layer. The apps on your phone were built by some of the most talented engineers and behavioral psychologists in the world, specifically designed to fragment your attention, to create compulsion loops, to monetize the gap between your intention and your behavior. Author Shoshana Zuboff called it surveillance capitalism, the extraction of your behavioral data as an economic raw material. You are not a user, you are the supply chain. So while you are working 40+ hours per week, a parallel economy is running on the side, built on extracting the attention you need to do your best work. You are paying an attention tax. Every day, it is invisible, it is continuous, and it is not accidental. The same systems that were designed to increase your productivity are monetizing the very cognitive resources productivity requires. And nobody put that in the job description. In 2017, researchers at Harvard Business School published a study called Dismissed by Degrees. They found that employers were increasingly requiring college degrees for roles that had not previously needed them, roles where degree holders perform no better than workers without degrees. Jobs like production supervisor, administrative assistant, IT support specialist. They called it degree inflation. Here is what that means in practice. A generation ago, a motivated person without a college degree could work their way into a management role through demonstrated skill and tenure. Today, that path is blocked, not because the job changed, but because the hiring filter did. The result, millions of workers took on significant debt to access the same economic outcomes their parents achieved without it. U.S. student loan debt has surpassed $1.7 trillion. And here is the twist. The degree didn't just become required for the job. It became required for the interview. The credential moved the starting line. It didn't change where the finish line was. And as more people obtained degrees, the market responded not by paying degree holders more, but by requiring postgraduate credentials. The goalpost moved. They told you education was the great equalizer. In certain conditions it was, but an equalizer inside a tilted system is not a level playing field. It is an entrance fee. Here is the most subtle trap of all. Somewhere between the motivational content, the hustle culture, and the self-help industry, work stopped being something you did. It became something you were. Your job became your identity. This was not an accident. Research in organizational psychology suggests that when employees identify personally with a company's mission, when they feel that the company's goals are their own, they work longer hours, accept less pay, and tolerate worse conditions. In 2019, journalist Derek Thompson published an essay in The Atlantic called "Workism is Making Americans Miserable." He argued that for a growing share of educated professionals, work had replaced religion as the primary source of identity, purpose, and community. Think about what that means for the labor equation. If your job is your identity, then working harder is not just an economic transaction. It is a spiritual act, a declaration of worth, a way of proving to yourself and others that you matter. And when the company downsizes, or the project ends, or the role is automated, it doesn't feel like a business decision. It feels like a verdict on who you are. This psychological architecture, the fusion of work and self, is extraordinarily profitable. Workers who perform this fusion don't just do their jobs. They over-deliver. They work evenings and weekends. They defend the company's interests as if they were their own. In return, they receive meaning, not necessarily proportional compensation. The trap is so well constructed that most people defend it. Tell someone their dedication is being exploited, and the first response is often not anger, it is denial. Because to accept that your effort has been systematically monetized by a structure that doesn't fully reward it would be to accept that the meaning you built around that effort was partly constructed for you. That is a very difficult thing to sit with. So what does this mean? Does it mean don't work hard? No, that would be a misreading. Effort still matters. Skill still matters. Dedication still matters. But effort deployed inside a system without understanding the rules of that system is not strategy. It is faith. And here is where the reframe happens. The people who build real financial leverage in this economy are not necessarily working harder than everyone else. They are working differently. They understand that assets, intellectual property, digital products, systems that generate revenue while you sleep, operate under entirely different rules than labor. Labor is linear. Time in, money out. You stop working, the income stops. Assets compound. You build once, you earn repeatedly. In 1959, management thinker Peter Drucker described what he called the knowledge worker, a person whose primary economic resource is their mind, not their physical output. He predicted that knowledge would become the primary resource of the 21st century. He was right. But the institutions, the schools, the corporations, the cultural scripts, never fully made the adjustment. They kept teaching industrial-era compliance inside a post-industrial economy. Sit down, show up, clock in, prove your worth through hours. The exit is not rebellion, it is understanding. Understanding that the system is not your enemy, but it is not your ally. That working hard inside a misaligned incentive structure is not virtue. It is inefficiency. That your attention, your energy, and your time are finite. And that the first act of genuine financial intelligence is to treat them that way. The question is not whether you are working hard enough. The question is, are you building something that works when you are not? Most people will watch this and return to work tomorrow. Same hours, same system, same grind. Some will not. The difference is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is whether you are willing to see clearly what has always been there. The trap is real. The evidence is public. The door is unlocked. The only question left is whether you are willing to stop running long enough to find it.